Well, welcome back to Start a New You Kitchen. We are focusing on lunch today, and in our group session we have been discussing lunch, and you have been working at kickstarting your lunches with more fruits and vegetables. And so we are going to help you in that process today as we go through two recipes, and then as usual we'll show you a picture of a meal at the end. So our recipes today can be found on page 1 and page 8 of your recipe packet for lunch. So almond artichoke sandwich spread is our first recipe, and our second recipe will be walnut burgers. So for the almond artichoke spread, the ingredients that we will need is 1 cup of almonds, a half a cup of olives, 1 can, 14-ounce can of artichoke hearts, 2 cups celery, 1 teaspoon onion powder, a half a teaspoon garlic powder, 2 tablespoons nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon sage, and a half a teaspoon salt. And then we're going to mix in some plant-based mayonnaise. We do use Vegenaise, and we'll show you a picture of that. So how the recipe will work is that we will need to soak our almonds for 2 hours, or you can actually just soak them overnight if that's easier. And then after they've soaked, you want to drain them and then put them into a food processor, and we will grind them into small pieces. And then we are going to add to the almonds all our various vegetables and seasonings, and then mix in our mayonnaise. And then we're going to chill that until ready to serve. For our walnut burgers, we're going to need 1 cup of soy milk, and you want to make sure it's unsweetened and unflavored. You don't want to use vanilla, and you don't want to use any that has sugar in it. The burgers will not taste very good at all. Then 1 cup of oatmeal, and just a little bit of salt, 1/8 teaspoon, a half a teaspoon sage, 1 red potato, 1 onion, a half a cup of walnuts. We're going to grind those as well. Then 2 tablespoons oil, 2 tablespoons Bragg's amino acids, and then a half a cup of grape nut cereal. And then we're also going to need our non-stick spray. And we'll show you that process. The directions then for the walnut burgers are we're going to bring the milk to a slow boil. Then we're going to add our oats, salt, and sage. And stir it a little bit, cover it, and turn the heat off and let it cool to where it'll be a little bit more workable and a little more solid. And then we're going to just allow it to absorb all the liquid. And then we're going to combine the vegetables and nuts in the food processor and grind them into small pieces. We have already done that today. And then we're going to mix them together. And then in a large skillet, we're going to combine the oil and the Bragg's amino acids and all the vegetables and nuts. And we're going to cover that and cook it over medium heat, stirring occasionally until the potato is soft. And then we're going to pour everything into a large bowl for mixing. We'll add then the cooked oat mixture and the grape nut flakes and mix well. And then we have a real neat process of how to make these burgers be nice and pretty. So we're going to spray a canning lid with nonstick pan spray, and we'll place the lid in a canning ring. We'll preheat a large frying pan to medium heat, or a griddle. We're going to be using a griddle today, and we'll heat it to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll add oil as necessary and press the mixture into a canning ring and smooth it out to form a nice burger. Then we'll turn the ring over, pull the ring off, and then the lid will be able to pop off as well. We might need to just run a little rubber spatula underneath to loosen it. And then we'll just repeat that process until all the burgers are made, and we will brown it on both sides. So, are you ready to cook? Let's start cooking. We're on our third cooking session this week, and we've been discussing lunch in our group sessions, and so we're going to be cooking lunch type food. We're going to be cooking our walnut burger and also an almond artichoke spread. We're going to begin with the walnut burger, and you'll find it on page 8 in your recipe packet. So we're going to begin by adding 1 cup of milk to our skillet, and we do have our skillet warmed a little bit to try to help speed up the process a little bit. So once this comes to a boil, then we are going to add a cup of oatmeal, salt, and sage. All right, so we'll just be waiting for that to begin boiling. Oats are very beneficial for blood sugar control, also for cholesterol and triglyceride levels because of their high fiber content, and very easy on the digestive system to process. And so they are well tolerated by people who have diabetes, as well as those who are wanting to lower their risk of heart disease or lower their cholesterol levels. All right, so we'll just keep an eye on this and make sure that it's getting nicely warmed until it just slightly boils. You want to keep an eye on it so it doesn't boil over. Milk tends to foam a lot, and it can easily just boil right over, and then you'd have a grand mess to clean up. So we definitely want to avoid that. While this is going, then you could be grating your potato and getting your onion diced up and your walnuts ground up, and you can do all that in a food processor, the nuts being ground in a food processor and the onion as well. If you're wanting to use an onion for, say, to put it over a pizza or something like that, you'd want to chop it. But if you're going to be using it in something that's going to be absorbing water, then you could actually just grind it in a food processor. It makes it very easy and quick. You might have less tears as well. And then with your potato, if you have like a salad shooter, you can just grind it right on through and have nice shreds of potato that will cook very nicely. We have actually shredded it already by hand, so we'll just be adding that at the right time. Let's just see how we're doing. We are boiling now, so we're going to add our oats and we'll give it a nice stir. All right, and then we're going to add our seasonings. And again, it's on page 8. You can follow along there. We're just adding a little bit of salt and a little bit of sage. And we'll give it another stir. And then we just can turn the burner off, let it sit, let it absorb all that, the oats absorb all the liquid. And then once it's cooled, we'll be able to work with it a little bit better. All right, so we'll just turn that off. All right, and then we have our potato that we'll be adding, and onion and walnuts, and again you just put those in a food processor and grind into small pieces. And then we'll add our Bergamino and our prepared vegetables, and we'll simmer them until it's well mixed. So we're just going to add them actually to this, since our potatoes are already grated and our walnuts and everything are already chopped. We're just going to go ahead and add them into our skillet now. All right, so we have our potatoes. We'll give those a stir and mix them in our walnuts and Bragg's amino acids, and we'll wait on our oil. Okay, and we're going to give this a little stir. And this will actually help cook the potatoes a bit longer and maybe speed up the process. So if you're in a hurry, you can always add them. If you do happen to grind your potatoes or grate your potatoes early, and then they get to sit for a while. They'll turn brown, but as you cook them, they'll turn back white. So you don't have to worry too much about that. All right, good. Just spread it out. Now we have chosen to use a red potato in this recipe because they are a slightly lower glycemic response than say your Idaho or brown potato or some of your other potatoes. So if you want to use a lower glycemic potato, we recommend that you choose the red potato. All right. So we have now all our vegetables and seasoning in our skillet, and they're just going to cook until the potato is tender, and then we're going to be able to transfer it to our mixing bowl. We'll add in our grape nuts, and we'll give it a nice stir, and then we'll be able to make patties. But we can't exactly do that right now because we have to wait for the potato to get tender. So we're just going to turn our heat back up a little bit while we wait for the potato to tenderize, and then we are going to move over and do our almond artichoke sandwich spread. Again, you will find this on page 1 of your recipe packet. All right, so page 1 of your recipe packet, almond artichoke sandwich spread. All right. So again, you want to soak your almonds, and then you want to drain them after they've soaked for at least 2 hours, and you can drain them through a sieve like this, and then grind them. And once they're ground, you can add them to your mixing bowl, and then all your other chopped vegetables as well. So we're going to add our olives in, and our artichoke. Artichokes are a great food. We're draining the artichokes. This is the artichokes that we are using in this demonstration. They're the Vigo, I guess is how you say it, imported artichoke hearts. Artichokes are a great cleanser for both the liver and the gallbladder. So if you do have any problems with your gallbladder, this would be a great food to incorporate into your meal plans. All right, we also are going to add in our celery. I think we need to add in our onion to our walnut burgers. I think somehow we got those left out. So we're going to add those in too. We'll just give it another stir here real quick. Need lots of onions. We're not adding meat, and the flavor is going to come from the mixture of seasonings and onions that we're adding. All right, so now we're ready to mix in our almond and vegetable mixture. Mix it well. Celery is also a nice cleanser, and it's very low in calories, and it's very good for those who have hypertension. It actually can work as a diuretic. So if you have high blood pressure, again, that would be a good vegetable to start incorporating into your meal plans. All right, we're going to add all our seasonings now. We have our onion powder and garlic powder and nutritional yeast and sage again. Now, if you wanted to make this kind of like a fishy type taste, you could add like kelp powder to it. It adds a nice little flavor to it. There's also a product called Hickory Bacon Seasoning, and it would go very nicely in here too if you wanted to change up the flavors a little bit. We're just doing a basic recipe, and then you can experiment with the flavor that you like the best. All right, we'll give it just a stir to mix in all the seasonings, and then we're going to add in our plant-based mayonnaise, and we're using Vegenaise today, and I'll just show you the container of that. We're just going to put part of our Vegenaise in here, just enough to moisten it. We might end up using all of it, but we don't want to have too much, so we'll just use part of it until we know. And in fact, I think that was a good call because we don't really need any more than what I just added. There you go. All right, and I think you can see that a little bit. That's what it will look like, and then we would chill that, and then you could put that in a pita and add some lettuce and tomatoes or cucumbers, sprouts, and have a real nice sandwich. It's smelling good. Remember, we talked about increasing our fruits and vegetables to at least 7 servings a day. So if you had 2 servings of fruit in the morning, and then 2 or 3 vegetables in the afternoon, and then 2 more vegetables or another fruit in the evening, that would be a way to get in your vegetables. And of course, we're adding vegetables into our main dishes that we're fixing as well, which is going to help reverse disease. Our fruits and vegetables are very high in the antioxidants, phytochemicals, vitamins, and minerals, and we just can't really stress it enough, the importance of including these foods into our regular meal plans. All right, so we're just going to be waiting now on our walnut burger mixture to finish cooking out. Make sure the potatoes and onions are both tender. Then we're going to be adding in our grape nut cereal. Now, grape nuts is a whole grain cereal. It is a higher calorie cereal, and so to just eat it for breakfast would be very similar to granola, except it wouldn't have all the sugar and oil added, so it would be just a little bit better than the granola. But if you're just eating it without cooking it and things, remember we've talked about our grains needing to be cooked, and so it has a water content to it, which is going to help with weight loss, which is very common among those who are struggling with diabetes. So it's a higher calorie, it's a very dense food. So I don't really recommend eating it for breakfast as a cereal, but adding it into burgers where you're having a lot of other variety mixed in, it can be a part of a good wholesome meal. It is a nice whole grain product, and you don't have to always get the name brand. You could get whatever brand your local store provides, but the gist would still be the grape nut crunchy cereal. All right. Let's give this another stir and see how we're doing. All right. Still needs a little bit more, I think. And again, anytime using potatoes, you want to give them a stir quite frequently to make sure they're not sticking. What we have here are porcelain pans, which help avoid the sticking. You might not have that at home, and so you might need to stir it even more frequent than we are. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're watching this demonstration. A lot depends on the equipment that you're using, and so you want to have nice equipment if possible, but if you don't have those resources currently, you want to be able to use what you have. So just be aware you might need to add the oil that we didn't necessarily have to add in this particular recipe. All right, just to keep the potatoes from sticking. All right, I think this is going to be just about ready. We'll just kind of test it here on the side and see how it's doing. Make sure it's tender enough. Oh yeah, very nice. All right. So now we're just going to add in our grape nut flakes, and you could allow this to cool a little bit if you wanted. Just for the sake of time, we're going to move ahead and put it in our bowl and then add our grape nut flakes. Or not flakes, I'm sorry. Grape nuts. All right. And we're just going to mix it. I'm going to mix it well so it's all even. There we go. Now we're going to be adding our burger ingredients into a canning jar lid. Now if you want to do like little slicers or something like this, you could use the small ring and lid, and if you wanted to do more like burgers and sandwiches, then you would use the larger one. So we're going to use the larger one today, but you could use the little one if you wanted to you know, use these patties like over rice or in with spaghetti or something like this. It would be very nice to have the smaller patty-like size versus the burger size. So you just want to add enough in your jar lid to cover it. Oh, and it would help if you preheated your grill. We're going to preheat our griddle to 300. We'll just give that a minute to heat up a little bit, and then I'll show you the rest of this. In the meantime, we'll talk about what we might add to a meal with a burger. So typically what we add to a burger meal would be fries or potato chips or something like this, right? Maybe some cookies. But we want to kickstart our meals, and so we could add something like an avocado coleslaw. We'll show you a picture of that, and the recipe is also in your packet. So we could add that, and then maybe some veggie sticks such as pepper slices or cucumber sticks or slices. Maybe some carrots and celery would be nice as well. And you could add a side of beans. Again, the king of fiber and very good for blood sugar control, reversing heart disease, hypertension, and weight management. This is all very good for that. So if you had your burger and then your coleslaw, some veggies, and maybe a side of beans, that would be a very nice rounded out meal. So let's see how this is doing. It's doing pretty good. I think we might just give it a little bit more time. And with this, with the walnut burgers, of course, we have the walnuts, and they're very high in omega-3 fatty acids. And this is important for our brain function as well. So getting in the flax seeds or the chias or the walnuts is important because it actually helps our brain work better. And if our brain works better, then obviously our body will work better. The brain should always be on top. There was a lady who was struggling with depression, and at 60 years old, she decided to take her doctor's advice and start walking to help relieve her depression. The lady's name was Hulda Crooks, and at 70 years old, she says she started taking exercise seriously. She started eating better, started eating things like the walnuts and the chia and the flaxseed, as well as doing her exercise. And she started exercising to the point where she was climbing mountains. She climbed Mount Fuji even, and her nickname is Grandma Whitney because she climbed Mount Whitney numerous times. I don't remember the number, but she lived until over 100 years old, and so she was a centurion. And we can treat depression by simply using natural remedies such as exercise to help reverse disease and to bring our brain into a nice harmony so that it can take control. And one of her favorite sayings, Hulda Crook sayings, was, if the brain's on top, then it should make the decisions for everything else. So when asked if what she did on days she didn't feel like exercising, she'd say the brain's on top, so I just have to do it anyway. The brain would tell me I need to go do it. And this is the attitude that we need to have. Our brain is very powerful. If we allow it to do its work, we can train it very well on how we want it to function. And we can reverse our habits, as we've been talking about, and choose better habits and lessen our previous habits. All right? So I think this probably is very well warm after talking so long. So let's give it a try. We're going to just have a spatula ready. We'll just flip this right over, and then just get the little tip of a spatula and the lid will come right off, and we didn't actually even have to use any of the spray on that. And we'll just continue to make these until our burgers are all made. We don't have any left. I think you can see it makes a very nice burger. And if you don't want to take the step of actually putting it in a canning jar lid, or you don't actually even have a canning jar lid at home, no problem. You can make them into a ball and then flatten them out like you would a regular hamburger. Oops. There we go. I think I'll just move this over here. Can you still see? All right. There we go. Of course, you always want to be careful not to get burned. You can do that by not working over the heat. Just keeping off to the side and not having to go back and forth. As these cook, they'll turn out to be a nice brown. A lot of people will tell me they taste very good and they don't miss the meat with this. And why would we not include the meat? We've talked about this in our group presentations. The meat, it's not the fat in the meat that's the problem. It's not even the cholesterol that's the problem, but it's all the toxins that are in the meat that actually cause us problems. And our body has to get rid of all the toxins, and so is what happens is when we eat the meat and the digestive system gets bombarded with all these toxins, then it actually creates inflammation, and the inflammation lasts for about 4 to 5 hours. Well, what happens after 4 to 5 hours after you've eaten? it's time to eat again, and then we end up having more inflammation and more endotoxins being added to our system, and then we end up being in a chronic inflammatory state, and that's where disease comes from, is the inflammation. The diabetes, the heart disease, the high blood pressure, they're all inflammatory diseases. So by reducing the amount of meat we consume and finding alternative sources, then we can help our bodies heal and not have the diabetes and the heart disease, not have to suffer the devastating consequences of a stroke or a heart attack. All right, so we just have one little bit left here. We'll try to squeeze it on there. Now obviously you can't cook this many in a skillet, and if you just have a skillet at home, no problem. You can just do a few at a time, maybe 3 or 4, whatever fits into your skillet will work just fine. All right, I don't think it's going to be brown yet, but we'll just check it and see how it's doing. I think it needs a little bit longer for sure. All right. Now I told you I would show you the Vegenaise that we used in our spread, and so here you can see that. It's just the regular Vegenaise is what we use. They have different varieties. You can choose which one you want. But the base in this is canola, but it is non-GMO if you're concerned about that. They make sure Vegenaise, it doesn't have the GMO even though it does use canola. If you're concerned about using canola at all, then you can get the grapeseed extract mayonnaise as well, or Vegenaise, excuse me. All right, and then the milk we used today is the Silk almond milk, and of course it is the unsweetened, and you can see that there as well. A serving of this is 1 cup, and that's just what we used, and it has all of 25 calories in it. All right. So we'll see how this is doing again. We'll just flip one over. There we go. It's getting a little brown there. You can see it. Might give it a little bit longer before we turn the rest of them. So that is how you make the almond artichoke sandwich spread that we showed you earlier. Of course, we have that here for you. And then this is the walnut burgers. We're going to finish these and then show you a plate with a full meal with the burger. All right, so they've been on the griddle now for about 10 minutes, and we've just turned them. We'll turn our last one here. And it takes about 10 minutes on a griddle at 300 degrees on each side. In your skillet, it might take a little bit different time. It might be shorter time or a longer time, depending on the temperature of your stove as well as how well your skillet does. Okay?